You know that feeling? You dive headfirst into something, maybe a project, maybe just learning something new, full of energy, and then halfway through, you kind of realize you're not even sure what the final destination is supposed to look like. Or, bam, you hit a roadblock you just didn't see coming because, well, you didn't quite grasp the bigger picture.
Yeah, happens to the best of us. Today, we're going to cut through some of that frustration. We're doing a deep dive into a concept from our source material on strategic foresight and planning. And honestly, it offers a surprisingly simple but really powerful antidote to that feeling.
It really does. What's fascinating is how concisely the source material captures it. A really fundamental principle boiled down to just a few words. It basically says, plan to the end. Think long term before moving. Just like that.
So direct.
Very direct. And the impact, if you actually follow it, is huge. It's not just about setting goals, it's a whole different way of approaching, well, pretty much any intentional action. Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack what it really means to plan to the end and then think long-term before moving. We'll dig into why this two-part framework can genuinely change how you tackle things. Could be prepping for a big meeting, could be getting your head around a new field. The aim is to help you gain that knowledge, that clarity, without feeling totally swamped. It's about being truly well-informed strategically. So yeah, let's unpack it. All right, let's start with the first part, plan to the end. On the surface, it sounds almost obvious, doesn't it? Know where you're going. But what does it really mean in practice to properly define that ultimate desired outcome? And be honest, how often do we really nail that down before jumping in instead of just, planning the next logical step?
That's exactly the point. We're often biased towards action, towards doing something. Feels productive, right? But that often means we react to the immediate task, the thing right in front of us, rather than designing the whole journey from the start. Planning to the end forces you to visualize that ultimate success, like really visualize it, the finished project, the deep understanding you're aiming for, that personal goal achieved. And you do this before you even think about taking that first step. It's more than just having a vague goal. It's about rigorously interrogating it. What does done look like, smell like, feel like, in detail? What are its absolutely essential components? And crucially, what assumptions are baked into this vision?
I like the analogy of building a house. A good architect doesn't just start sketching a wall or picking out kitchen cabinets first. They see the whole thing, right? The finished structure, how it flows, how light hits it, how it sits on the land, even how it might be expanded later. That complete blueprint, that vision of the end, dictates every single choice along the way, from the foundation concrete mix to the finish on the doorknobs. If you only plan the next brick you're laying, you might build a fantastic wall. Technically perfect, but it might be part of a house that doesn't actually work or isn't what you wanted at all.
That's a perfect way to put it. If your focus is only on that immediate next step, you might make very efficient progress, but could easily be efficient progress straight into a dead end, or towards something that looks like success, but is really just an activity trap. Lots of busy work, not much real impact towards your ultimate purpose. Think about learning a new language. Your real end probably isn't just memorizing a list of 100 verbs. Maybe it's holding a fluent conversation, or reading novels in the original text, or really connecting with a different culture. Defining that specific end fundamentally changes how you learn, which words you prioritize, how you practice speaking versus reading, what resources you focus on. Without that clear destination, you could spend months, efficiently mastering grammar rules that don't actually help you order coffee or understand a movie.
Oh, I've totally done that. Not with languages, but with other things. That urge to just get started is so strong. I remember once deciding to finally organize my digital photos. I got super focused, spent hours perfectly tagging and categorizing one specific holiday album, felt really productive. Then I sort of zoomed out and realized I hadn't spent even 5 minutes thinking about what I actually wanted for my entire photo library long term. What was the point? Access, sharing, archiving. Suddenly, that perfectly organized album felt like, well, kind of a waste of time in the bigger picture. My efficient actions were completely disconnected from any meaningful end.
It's a really common experience, and it just highlights why this first principle is so critical. Defining that end state forces you to clarify your real purpose. What does success actually look like? What metrics truly matter? It's about designing your trajectory, not just reacting to bumps in the road. And it shifts the focus from mere efficiency doing things right to efficacy, making sure you're doing the right things in the first place.
Okay, so we've got this clear, well-defined end in mind. Step 1. Then comes the second part from our source material, which feels just as vital. Think long-term before moving. This isn't just wishful thinking, is it? Or just passively hoping for the best. It sounds like a very active, deliberate pause. Why is that pause so critical? What exactly are we doing when we think long term?
That pause is crucial. It's not about stopping. It's about pre-action, strategic consideration. And yeah, it can be transformative. This is the moment where you take that defined end goal you've worked so hard on and you deliberately project it forward. You start playing out scenarios. You ask yourself things like, okay, given this is where I want to end up, what are the likely bumps in the road? What challenges might pop up weeks, months, maybe even years from now? And also, what resources will I really need down the line, not just tomorrow? What are the ripple effects, good and bad, of a first steps I'm considering taking?
So it's almost like running simulations in your head, stress testing the plan against possible futures.
Precisely. A great way to think about it is like doing a pre-mortem. Instead of waiting for something to go wrong and then analyzing why, you actively imagine it has already failed, maybe 6 months or a year out. Then you work backwards. Okay, if this failed, what would have been the most likely causes? This process is fantastic for uncovering hidden risks, maybe resource gaps or critical dependencies you might have completely overlooked in your initial excitement. It also helps you consider basic scenarios. What if this key assumption I'm making turns out wrong? What if that market trend suddenly reverses? This kind of structured foresight lets you build resilience, adaptability right into your plan from the get-go, instead of just reacting when, inevitably, something unexpected happens.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially for getting those multiple perspectives we often talk about needing. You're not just looking down the path you've planned, you're actively trying to simulate different future paths, different obstacles. It helps you see around corners a bit. Yeah.
Exactly right. And it forces a critical look at your own assumptions. You might realize, oh, I actually need to learn this skill before I can really tackle that stage. Or, getting buy-in from that particular stakeholder early on is going to be absolutely critical. Or even sometimes, you know what, based on these long-term considerations, my initial end goal might need a slight tweak. This proactive thinking helps you allocate your resources, time, money, energy, much more strategically. You can anticipate shifts, whether they're political, technological, or market-driven. Basically, it helps prevent that strategic myopia where you're so focused on the immediate task, you walk right off a cliff you could have seen coming.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Because these two ideas, plan to the end and think long-term before moving, they don't sound like just separate steps you do once. One, then two, done. It feels more like they're constantly interacting. A loop, maybe? How do they actually feed into each other?
They absolutely form a dynamic feedback loop. It's not just sequential, it's iterative. Think of it this way. Planning to the end gives you that North Star, your ideal destination, the blueprint. But thinking long-term before moving is the critical reality check. It's where you hold that beautiful blueprint up against the messy, unpredictable realities of the future landscape. For instance, your initial end for new product launch might seem perfect on paper, but your long-term thinking, your pre-mortem, might reveal that upcoming regulatory changes or a shift in consumer taste could make it obsolete in just 3 years. So that long-term insight forces you to go back and refine your original end plan. Maybe you pivot the product vision slightly, make it more adaptable, more future-proof.
Ah, okay. So it's not a static plan carved in stone. It's a living strategy.
Yeah.
You define the end, then you mentally pressure test it against future possibilities. You learn from that projection, and then you circle back to potentially improve or maybe even significantly change your original vision of the end. It's like a constant conversation between where you want to go and what the road ahead might actually look like.
Absolutely. It's a dialogue between aspiration and foresight. The goal isn't just to reach an endpoint, but to reach the best possible endpoint via the most intentional and well-prepared path. This iterative refinement helps you avoid strategic drift, where small, early decisions slowly steer you off course without you even noticing until you end up somewhere you never intended to be. It's about building a robust, resilient strategy, not just a rigid schedule that shatters at the first unexpected event.
This whole framework feels incredibly relevant for anyone listening, especially if you're trying to get a handle on complex information quickly and effectively without that feeling of just drowning. Say you need to understand a new field, I don't know, AI ethics, quantum computing, something complex. How does this plan and think long-term principle change how you even start learning? Because you could just start reading random articles forever.
This is exactly where it can deliver a massive aha moment for learners. Instead of randomly diving in, first, you plan to the end. What does understanding AI ethics actually mean for you? Is your end goal being able to explain the core dilemmas to a colleague? Is it identifying key thinkers and frameworks? Is it critically evaluating news articles about AI bias? You define your specific end state of understanding. Then, you think long-term before moving. What are the foundational concepts you absolutely must grasp first, the ones that underpin everything else? What's the basic history here? Who are the major players or opposing viewpoints that structure the entire debate? By focusing on that defined end, your specific understanding goal, and considering the long-term structure of the knowledge itself, you essentially create a mental scaffold, like a knowledge tree. As new information comes in, it doesn't just pile up randomly. You know where it fits. Which branch does this connect to? How does it relate to the core concepts? You start to instinctively filter out the noise, the fluff, and prioritize what genuinely moves you toward your defined understanding. It's a shortcut to becoming truly well-informed, not by absorbing more, but by absorbing more strategically, building a coherent mental model as you go.
That's brilliant. So instead of feeling overwhelmed, thinking you need to read every single paper or book out there, you're strategically asking which resources, which core ideas, which connections will most directly lead me to my specific learning goal in the long run. It gives you a filter, a roadmap, and frankly, it sounds like it would massively reduce that feeling of information overload. You're focusing your effort where it counts.
Exactly. It also prompts you to think critically about the sources themselves. If your end goal is a balanced understanding, you'll naturally seek out diverse perspectives thinking long-term about potential biases rather than just grabbing the first explanation you find. And it applies just as well to projects or personal decisions. Define the real desired outcome, the true end for that project, or the ultimate impact you want from that life choice. Then pause. Think long-term about the implications, dependencies, potential downsides before you commit. It helps you spot conflicts early, anticipate resource needs, and make choices that are much more aligned with your actual goals, preventing wasted effort or future regret.
So really, this isn't just some high-level framework for corporate strategy, folks. It's almost like a personal operating system upgrade. For you, listening right now, it's about approaching, well, everything with more intention, with way more clarity, and with that proactive, forward-looking perspective that's so easy to lose in the daily rush. It's about consciously designing your path, not just stumbling along it. So to recap our deep dive today, we've explored this really potent insight from strategic foresight in planning. Plan to the end. Think long-term before moving. It sounds simple, maybe even obvious at first glance, but digging into it reveals just how profound its implications are for actually navigating complexity and getting to outcomes that really matter.
Yeah, and if we zoom out even further, connected to the bigger picture, this isn't just about planning tasks better. It's a fundamental shift towards more intentional living, more strategic learning. It empowers you, really, to become more of an active sculptor of your own future, rather than just reacting to whatever life throws at you. It gives you leverage to shape your experiences, your knowledge, instead of just being passively shaped by them.
We genuinely hope you'll experiment with this. Seriously, try it out. The next time you're about to jump into something new, could be a big presentation, starting to learn a new skill, even just planning your week ahead, consciously take that extra moment. Ask yourself, okay, what does the end truly look like here, beyond the immediate task? And then, what are the potential long-term consequences, the ripples of this first step I'm about to take, both the good and the potentially tricky ones?
And maybe that leaves you with an important question to chew on. How might your own definition of success, whether that's in your career, your learning journey, or just your personal life, how might that definition fundamentally shift if you consistently started applying this plan to the end? Think long-term mindset, and what exciting, maybe completely unforeseen new paths might open up for you as a result of that deeper clarity.